Good morning, everybody, and welcome councillors, members of the public to the extraordinary meeting of North Northamptonshire Executive, and a warm welcome to those who are viewing online as well. Members and members of the public are reminded to keep your phones muted and your microphones muted unless you're invited to speak. So I'll move on to item 1, apologies for absences. Are there any apologies?
Thank you very much, Chair. So we've got apologies for absence from Councillor David Howes and Susan Hamilton, who is the Director of Public Health. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So item 2, members' declarations of interest. Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, Chair. As previously declared, the KLV, or the conference centre, is a customer of mine, so I will not be able to take part in the debate, so I'll be leaving the room.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bundy. So, no other members' declarations? No. Okay, so moving on to item 3, notifications of requests to address this meeting. And I have requests from Councillor Dorothy Maxwell, Councillor Jim Hakewell, Councillor Anna Lee, Councillor Lynn Buckingham, Councillor William Cahoon, Councillor John McGee, and Councillor Anna Pandy. So item 4, the future of Kettering Leisure Village. I'd like to invite Councillor Hakewell to come and speak. Councillor Hakewell, you have 3 minutes.
Right, speak today. The first thing I should do, a bit like Councillor Bundy, is just to declare a non-pecuniary interest, because I've been helping as much as I could the people most involved with the KLV. I'm told it's a personal interest, but not one that inhibits me from speaking. My first real point I have to make is heartfelt thanks to Phoenix and Compass for recognising that the community has the KLV at its beating heart. They came along, they have kept the centre open, which was the most key aspect of all of this, that if it closed, we would be in a very much more difficult position. So my great thanks to both them and their directors and so on for recognising that. Equally, excuse me, the petitioner who raised 15,000 signatures within just a few days to say once again that the KLV must remain open. I personally feel very proud to have been able to raise this issue within days of it hitting what one might call the proverbial fan. And I'm very proud of that and very happy to have worked with a lot of people who have the same corporate memory that I do. And I think as an executive, you need to remember the corporate memory of those councillors who have been around for a long time. Some will say too long. But actually, we do remember things that have happened in the past. And occasionally, for someone on the executive to pick up the phone and say, hey, do you remember this, or can you help out with that? In a recent report in Northumberland, they identified that failures had happened because so many people were moving around and there was no corporate memory. And we as a council have only 2 years corporate memory. I appreciate we're going to recruit yet another consultant, another day, another consultant in your report. But what we must do, and it was a great shame that the KLV group were not invited to the Big 50 conference at the Park Hotel. But what I want to do is to say, please invite Anita, Diane, Jack, Alex, Ollie, Alan and Jerry, who are the KV core group, to talk to the consultants. They have an absolute mine of knowledge, corporate and memory, but they also have skills at running that place. And I would really, really ask that you ask them to come along to the consultants and to contribute. There also needs to be scrutiny, not EAP, scrutiny of this. And I accept that there are other consultations going on, active communities, tourism and so on. The KLV can be the absolute hub in the North Northamptonshire spoke of that wheel. We know also that it is within the rules of the council
Councillor Haigwell, that's your time up. Thank you
that
very
it
much.
can purchase
Councillor
the
Haigwell,
KLV.
Councillor Haigwell, that's your time up. Thank you very much.
I thank you for cutting me off.
No, your time is up, Councillor Haigwell. You know the rules. Councillor Anne Lee, if you'd like to come and speak. Thank you. Councillor Lee, for the avoidance of doubt, you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My issues with this proposal are as follows. I'll cut straight to the chase. 1. What contract management is the authority putting in place to ensure that Phoenix is using reasonable endeavours? A laudable list of objectives has been set out under point 4.9. How closely will we monitor whether those objectives are being fulfilled? Will we be vigilant, observant, attentive, proactive, responsive? 2. No mention of a notice period. Phoenix needs to give the authority the notice period that Phoenix will need to give the authority if it intends to close the facility due to it not being commercially viable. Based on this paper, Phoenix could close the sports facilities from one day to another. So the first show in the Lighthouse Theatre is on Friday the 29th of September. So if Phoenix starts to operate KLV, September will already not be a very commercially viable period. With the revised terms, NNC is making it easier, not harder, for Phoenix to pull out. Whereas you currently have an option to enforce the lease, with these revised terms you won't. The tenant could choose to close the centre if it's unviable, as it states in 5.14. Phoenix still gets a carrot, but you lose the stick. Northants Sport, that's 4 now, Northants Sport holds its winter sports event for schools at KLV. Can you please include a clause in the agreement to ensure that the venue will still be made available, but not at an extortionate rate? Come to that, why is there no mention in here of Northamptonshire Sport? Has it been consulted about the agreement? 5. The proposed agreement would apply for a 2-year period. What happens after that? 6. Whereas Phoenix is now under an obligation to use best endeavours, it will only need to use reasonable endeavours, so it does not need to try very hard. It can milk the resources, not put an ounce of investment in it, run it into the ground, and then in 2 years' time, NNC will be left with the pieces. 7. Where is Phoenix? Can we hear from Phoenix, please? How committed is Phoenix to making it work? Can we please see an expression of good intentions from Phoenix? And then there's only a mention in here of the lighthouse and the arena. No mention of the gym at all. There should be a mention of what's going to happen. You may say, okay, it's not our problem, but it's possible that Phoenix will charge the gym an extortionate amount again when the gym is very important for the mental health and the physical health of thousands of people in Kettering and beyond. In 5.15, it states that the revised arrangement is in draft form.
Councillor Lee, that's your time up. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I'd
so
like to
this
invite
is not good
Sorry.
stewardship of the council's resources.
Beg pardon. Sorry, this is Councillor Buckingham, Lynn Buckingham. You have 3 minutes, Councillor Buckingham.
Thank you. I'll try to keep it shorter. In looking at this, I recognise the hard decisions that have got to be made around KLV, the intricacies of procurement and people that are already involved. I think my concern is about the sustainability of the KLV in the future. And I think that is, for me, around the viability of the conference centre. And whilst it is one of the largest facilities in the East Midlands, it also doesn't have a lot of the facilities that other bigger venues have, in as much as mainly today conference facilities include overnight stays, and there isn't that much of a pull around accommodation and hotels and things with that. So it's about the sustainability or flexibility of how the conference centre can be used to increase the viability of the Kettering Leisure Village. And I think that, you know, is there scope to change the nature of the facilities, enterprise zones, where there are coming in grants that may be able to be tapped into. I don't know, and I know that you're going to find that out when you do your business case. And, you know, as I say, there's going to be some hard decisions around that business case. So, but thank you very much for all coming together on this. Much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckingham. It's very kind of you to acknowledge that. If we could move on now to William Colquhoun, please. Oh, sorry. Okay. Over to you then, Councillor McGee.
Thank you, Chair. And may I very briefly declare a quick non-pecuniary interest. I play squash here twice a week. I know it doesn't look like it, but I do. Chair, it's absolutely essential that we have this place. We all know that, because we know in the long run it's something that prevents people from getting ill. These centres are our well-being centres. And I'm a bit disappointed that the Director for Public Health is not here, because I have reservations about the future. I think we all do. But I also see opportunities. Public health working there, social care working there, and the prevention agenda. That's a great opportunity to make that viable in the long run, because we know, according to the papers, that not all the building will be used. So there's great opportunities. It's not just all doom and gloom. There's great opportunities for us to work across all areas. And I really do hope that can happen. Yeah, because we know, and I know, and I just want to thank not only the people that have been fighting for this, I want to thank yourselves and the staff, because for it not to close makes a big difference to a lot of people's lives. And that's what we wanted in the first place, wasn't it, for not to close? But we do have to worry about the long-term sustainability, and that's absolutely essential. So, Chair, I'm being brief because I will get an opportunity to see the business plan, but I do hope that the users of the KLV get an opportunity to have an input into that business plan across the board. And I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McGee. Councillor Dorothy Maxwell.
Good morning. What is the Council aiming to achieve in future, and at what cost to the residents? Who is KLV aimed at? Children, adults, and the public at large. We have given them £330,000 plus £30,000 to keep this going, but taking on this would be a massive commitment. Why can it not survive without the council? What are the cost implications to the council? This has not been spelled out and needs clear needs and no cover-up. It has advantages, it's a large venue, but what's its aim? Does it break even? Clearly, if it cannot be commercially released sensitive information for the publication, how much do we have to spend so far? Are we running at a cost? This has not been spelled out. When it was fully functioning, was it realised that all was not right? The future of this venue, what should happen? Is it a dead asset where we are not fully aware of what's happening? I feel we need more information quick. Classes are expensive. Theatre costs, conference costs, heating costs, electricity costs, maintenance costs and staff costs. Where are these? We need to think as a council who should bear the costs involved. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. And finally, Councillor Anup Pandey.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, the officer. I would like to thank our Leader Jason, Deputy Leader Helen, and all the officers who were involved in this cause. I really appreciate that they were engaging. They were passing information what was happening. They got involved with the groups, individuals who were working on this cause. What I was really disappointed seeing the behavior of opposition party. The opposition party wanted to use this opportunity for their political agenda, to gain political, nothing else. They were involved in emotional outbursts, spreading false information. They did everything. They thought this issue, KLV is going to die. They are going to use this issue to revive their political agenda. But they failed. Today we are here with the business case. I thank our leader and officer. This is the same business case for which Labour and opposition opposed the motion which we had got. But this business case is because of that motion. They need to understand that we are here to work. People need to understand we know how important KLV is for the community. We all are committed to save this. I would like to request everyone, every resident, community member, don't fall prey to false information. Have trust in our leadership. We are here to serve you, protect all your interests. I would also like to add, I saw a few posts on Facebook and social media that NNC stepped in with a grant. I want to clarify that we have not given any new grant. So that's clear. We have not used any taxpayers' money to save KLV. That is the false information, as usual. That is opposition doing. So I just want to say once again thanks to Jason, Helen, and the officers team to working on this to save and so that it keeps serving us. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Councillor Pandey. Okay, so I'd like to invite Councillor Binley to introduce the paper, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, what I will do is I will try and cover a lot of the comments and questions made. So you'll have to forgive me if there is anything missed. I did try my best. First of all, Councillor Hakewell, thank you for your comments and your participation. And of course, I think your involvement in this process is well known. And thank you for thanking Compass and Phoenix. And also the petitioner. But as has been highlighted by other people here, I think you missed one of the key people involved in that process, which is this executive and officers as well, who've worked incredibly hard behind the scenes. You talk about scrutiny. Well, of course, yes, you're absolutely right, Councillor Hakewell. It does need to be scrutinised. I would point out that it was the Conservative administration that added scrutiny to the motion that was passed at full council. And you're right, it does need to go before scrutiny, which is why that is contained within the report, that it will go to scrutiny, the relevant scrutiny panel, before it comes to executive again. Councillor Lee, apologies, there was an awful lot that you mentioned, so it might be yourself where I may have missed a few bits. You are right where you flag up the change in the term with regards to reasonable. And again, this is detailed within the report. And I'm sure that our legal officer will be able to put this far more eloquently than I would. However, reasonable is far more of a standard piece of terminology used in any legal contract or anything to do with law. It is something that is used by the courts the vast majority of time, that you've taken all reasonable steps. The other piece of terminology that was previously used in the contract would probably not hold much water or carry much weight in court should that matter ever have to go, because the courts would look at it and go, that's not a piece of terminology that we use. They ask whether it's that have they carried out everything that they reasonably could. So actually the changes in the contract fall more in line with what would actually be best on a legal basis. The notice period, well, I mean, of course, as we know, whilst everybody has a notice period, you don't necessarily have to abide by that, as in people can terminate contracts before that. However, there is then a legal recourse to follow after that. As this report details, there potentially would be a legal recourse that this council could follow. However, it would be with Phoenix, not with Compass, because the contract is with Phoenix Leisure, not with Compass. I understand your point. However, the report does detail how people can go outside of that notice period. And I know that you've said that it makes it easier for them to be able to walk away. I think we should be using a stick rather than a carrot. I think in this instance, what that has shown is that would not have saved KLV in this instance. Because, as the report clearly details, we would have to wait for the centre to close before any legal action could be taken. And what that means is staff would go, the facilities would be gone, and it would be far, far harder to restart it at that point. However, the approach that has been taken by the council is to work with Compass, to work with Phoenix, to try and find a solution to keep that centre open now. And that has been done for the next 2 years. It is not a long-term solution, but it is certainly a short-term solution which affords us the possibility to go away and draw up this business case and to look at all of the options and attempt to secure a more long-term solution for the centre. The report does detail what happens after 2 years. It talks about the business case, and it's that business case which will then allow us to make a well-informed decision as to what the possible courses of action will be after that 2 years. But it will also potentially give us an option of what we might be able to do in the shorter term should the worst case scenario happen. The gym is mentioned throughout the report, but one thing that we would say is we can't dictate as to what Phoenix are going to charge the gym. That is a contractual arrangement for which we wouldn't have any say over. Councillor Buckingham, you're concerned about the sustainability, and of course I think that that's a very valid point, which is exactly why we've got to have a robust business case in place. I thank you for your comments. It's good to see you again, as we always do, and thank you for your acknowledgement. Councillor McGee, you're absolutely right. Public health is absolutely crucial in this, and that's why the report contains references throughout as to how important KLV is with regards to not only physical well-being, but also mental well-being in the area, and the wider area, not just Kettering, regardless as to how often you get down there to play squash. And again, I thank you for your comments and your thanks towards staff and the executive. Councillor Maxwell, what are we aiming to achieve? Well, we're aiming to achieve to save KLV. That's the whole point of us being here, really. Because, of course, it's been acknowledged that this is a hugely important part of the community in Kettering. The answers on any costs that you raised, again, those would be detailed in the business plan. However, what we have to remember, I know you talked about how there's no details to do with whether it's loss-making or what, but as the report details, those would be commercially sensitive items, and we cannot detail those in the report. Excuse me. Councillor Pandy, thank you again for your acknowledgement of both the leader and the deputy leader and officers who've worked incredibly hard on this. You are correct. This is not, there's no new grant funding. Again, as is detailed in the report, this is an existing grant that has been paid to KLV, which is inflationary linked. Like I said, the details are in there. Chair, I think I've covered everything, and now I'll go on to the main report.
Just before, Councillor Bindi, if you go on to the main report, I just want to bring the monitoring officer in just to talk a little bit about best and reasonable endeavours. I think if you would like to come in on that, monitoring officer.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, just some clarification around this best and reasonable endeavours, and they are quite legal terms around that. So in terms of best endeavours, that is exactly what it says. You use your best endeavours, you know, and that's how the court's interpreted it. There's been a significant amount of case law on best endeavours, less so on reasonable endeavours. But if you were to breach the best endeavours clause, it's that they've not been genuine in their efforts to achieve the objective. So you've got to be really genuine around that. The other is if you're not acting in good faith and you've not done anything that you reasonably need to do. So that's around best endeavours. So reasonable endeavours is where you balance the weight of the contractual obligations and the commercial obligations, and that's set out in the report, against the obligation to carry something out. So you're balancing it a little bit more. But when we look back at best endeavours, that talks about being reasonable as well. So it is a bit of a nuance around it. In terms of this best and reasonable endeavours, it's not just this is what it says, this is what we will do. It's always interpreted by the court. So it's different in each case. It's always subject to court interpretation and relevant case law. And it will depend upon the facts of it. But it is a slight change. So whereas we were using best endeavours before, we're now using reasonable, and that means that there will be a commercial element to that at that point. It will be subject to interpretation, and obviously officers will be interpreting that and holding to account in terms with the contract.
Thank you for that, Monitoring Officer. That's very useful. Councillor Bindi, if you want to go ahead and introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, firstly, I'd like to start off by thanking the officers who've put the detailed information contained in this report together. So following the discussion of the future of KLV, the Council agreed a motion on the 22nd of June 2023. The report is to set out the actions taken with Compass Contract Services UK, along with the leaseholder of the site, Phoenix Leisure Management. This is since CCS announced the closure of KLV by the 3rd of July, of which the Council were notified on the 27th of April. The report sets out the considerations required to develop a business case and options appraisal for the longer-term operation of the site. Also, the outcome of the recent negotiations with the leaseholders towards securing an interim solution to support the site to remain open. This council values KLV as one of the area's premier leisure venues and is committed to the development of a business case to support its ongoing delivery of support, physical activity, theatre and health services. A business case must consider the immediate and long-term impacts of the council operating KLV in full or in part. With that, there are many factors to consider as detailed within the report. The business case should also consider the wider strategic context in the development of a wider leisure strategic framework. It should be noted that the Council is not in a position of direct control, such that it can take on the long-term management of KLV. With the site being in control of the Council's tenant, that's Phoenix Leisure, and this proposal is to develop a business case, not a commitment to step in. 4.8 of the report details the significant annual council grant contributions made towards the provision of services at KLV. 4.9 and 4.10 set out the objectives of the grants. It is envisaged that the business case will take approximately 3 months to develop and review. It will cover the key elements as detailed in section 5.9 and 5.10 of the report. I would like to highlight that following the Council being informed of the intention to close KLV, certain members of the Executive and Council officers have worked with both CCS and PLMS along with other stakeholders to broker a temporary solution. Since the Council motion was passed on the 22nd of June, a solution between all parties has been agreed in principle as confirmed by CCS on the 28th of June. The proposed solution will see CCS surrender their sublease to PLMS at the end of August 2023. Phoenix will then operate KLV. As detailed in 5.13, the Council has agreed in principle to a 2-year temporary amendment of the obligation on PLMS to use best endeavours to stay open, requiring PLMS to use reasonable endeavours to keep the supporting facilities open, as had been discussed earlier. 5.14 explains in further detail exactly what this means. A key aspect to note is that we have to be aware that despite this obligation being in place, the tenant could choose to close the centre if it is unviable. Whilst the proposed solution does not permanently secure the future of KLV or prevent its closure, it has prevented the closure that had been due to take place and has provided time for PLMS to consider other operators it may wish to work with. As detailed in section 6 of the report, this very clearly and simply explains the next steps. We should continue to work with PLMS and other stakeholders to secure the longer-term future of KLV to the best of our endeavours, which will be aided by the development of the business case. This is due to be brought back to Executive to consider once it has been considered by the relevant scrutiny panel. There are financial and resource implications to the Council to continue its work, and they are detailed in 7.1 of the report. The additional costs can be met by the current budgets. On that basis, Chair, I would like to move the recommendations detailed in section 3.1 of the report, which, for clarity, I shall read out. It is recommended that the Executive note the motion by Council on the 22nd of June 2023, agree to receive a comprehensive business case, including associated options appraisal and details of any agreement between North Northamptonshire and Phoenix Leisure Management as set out in paragraph 5.13, endorse the agreement in principle to agree revisions to the provisions of the lease to support the site to remain open. This is for the reasons set out in 3.2. Again, I will just make that absolutely clear, Chair, and I will just read that. The recommendation, if agreed, will allow officers and the Executive time to fully consider the implications of the Council stepping in to operate part or all of the site, alongside a range of other options for the future operation and management of the site. Therefore, Chair, as I say, I'm happy to move that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Binley. So, members, do we have anything to say on this? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to address, if I may, the comments made by Councillor McGee. Firstly, to point out that the Director of Public Health is not here today. Just to put on record, the Director of Public Health regularly attends these meetings, is very diligent in everything that she does, and is, fully engaged in everything that this council does that is to improve the health and well-being of our communities. What we're looking to agree today is a step forward in developing a business case and an options appraisal. And as I'm sure you'd be aware, all parts of the council are going to be engaged in that options appraisal, and absolutely public health will be engaged in that. You know, if you think about some of the things that we are putting in place in terms of our integrated care system, we have community wellbeing forums, we have local area partnerships, we have a commitment to be developing community hubs. There are so many things that we want to do as a council that we would consider in the round when we're looking at a business case and options appraisals. Obviously, I can't, jump forward and tell you what's going to be in that options appraisal and what's going to come forward and what the business case is going to say. That's a 3-month detailed piece of work. But absolutely, public health will be involved in that very, very closely, and I'll be making sure of that too. So just really to assure you on that, but also to, really put on record that our Director of Public Health works incredibly hard and does come to these meetings. It's an extraordinary meeting of the Council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Brackenbury.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank everybody who's spoken on this matter. It's good that we actually have common agreement that KLV is a very important asset to the community, and that we must do all that we can to make sure that it continues in the time to come. Basically, we're in the dark at the moment in the sense that we haven't, this motion is to get the business plan sorted out and to come back with the options that we have. And that is the most important thing that we get arranged right now. The budget for consultations from consultants here is fairly minimal at £8,000. So we'll have a much clearer idea of where we stand with the discussions that are going on at the moment and with the worked-up business plan in the 3 months period. Meanwhile, the KLV remains open. And lastly, Chair, I'd just like to, place on record the fact that this is a bit of a bombshell in April when suddenly it was announced that KLV was going to close. And I'd pay tribute to members of this council, members of the executive, officers, and members of the public, and people who have been all coming together to try to find a solution to this. We're not there yet, but at the moment KLV remains open. We've got options coming with a worked-up business plan with which we will have a much clearer idea and a much clearer path forward for consideration once that's been done. So I commend the motion and I commend the work that's been going on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brackenbury. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, and thank you for everybody who spoke on this matter. As you'll note, it isn't me that's taking this paper today because this is an asset. It falls under assets. Although there are leisure activities that actually go on within the facility, it falls under assets. It always has fallen under assets. However, as it now forms part of our active community strategy framework, obviously we will be taking a greater interest in this from that perspective. It will provide us with a huge opportunity now to engage with everybody, and that includes all of those members who wish to engage in that active community strategy, including supporters of the KLV support group and anyone that wishes to take part in that. So we do actively encourage people to take part in that, the engagement with that strategy. Councillor Harrison's already outlined that we work very closely with public health, and I think you'll see in 5.9 that this business case will also include opportunities to link the facility with the wider public services that are needed. So it's, I suppose, fortunate in an unfortunate way that this has come about now because we are developing this active community strategy whereby we can look at it in the round and we can look at what Northamptonshire requires from a leisure perspective, and with our leisure facilities. So let's all look at this as an opportunity. This business case will come along and it will show us what is required not only for KLV, but also it will feed into this strategy that we are developing for the whole of Northamptonshire. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. And I had the pleasure of growing up with Kettering Leisure Village and spent many a youth night there with the old quasar that used to be there and the ice skating rink and the swimming pool. And I've watched it changed over the years. And I know many of you have attended theatre productions there. And in a previous role as Mayor of Kettering, it's been an honour to attend amateur productions and school productions, which have been absolutely outstanding. And I'm pleased that this can continue. And I'm pleased that this business case is going forward so we can look at and supporting more organisations, particularly, and I know it was mentioned with mental health and also youth crime in preventing that and the prevention strategy. And I think it is so important. So all of this can be included within the business case. And I look forward to contributing to that myself, as well as all those other organisations. And I think it has been mentioned, the staff that work at Kettering Conference Centre, are outstanding. And that, you know, the past two months or so, they've been through a lot. So I'd like to pay thanks to those, actually, because they've stuck with it. Most of them are still there, and they're doing an absolutely fantastic job to keep it going. So I welcome this report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Chair. Also my thanks and congratulations to everyone involved in keeping KLV open. It's certainly short-term and medium-term, it's the best option that we could ever have for KLV to carry on as it is, bearing in mind the original motion that was put forward on the 22nd of June was suggesting that we buy the conference centre in 7 working days. So how that would happen, I don't know. Just to add a bit from what Adele said about best and reasonable endeavours, those who don't know, I used to work for a leading law firm who was #1 for litigation at the time, and we were always told best practice means that you go to and over being bankrupt to keep the contract going. Reasonable endeavours are that you go up to going bankrupt, so there is no real loss in going from best practice to reasonable. If it goes to court, as Councillor Binley said, you get more chance of a favourable outcome from the courts than having a best practice. In terms of the motion itself that we approved on the day, it was interesting that I think it was 4 councillors said on the day, forget about scrutiny, we need to get on. It's interesting that 1 has now said it needs to go to scrutiny. But it's in the paper, so all's good. Fully support that it goes to scrutiny before it comes back to us as well. This is really good, I think, for KLV in terms of certainly the media, making sure that it carries on by the removal of Compass from the contracts. It's obviously removed a layer of cost as well. So that's going to help KLV as well. And as Councillor Edwards said, all the staff are brilliant. With TUPE, we've managed to keep their jobs as well, and the exceptional service that everyone gets there can continue through. So fully support this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowley. Yeah, it was a very challenging bombshell, as I think someone said earlier, that was dropped on us, and we had to deal with it very quickly. And again, thank you to everybody that was involved in that. And I have a heartfelt thanks to Diane, who was the leader of the Kettering support group to save KLV. You know, she worked tirelessly on this, and you know, she deserves absolutely every piece of credit, alongside with her team, who tirelessly kept on the case and kept keeping the pressure on to make sure that everybody delivered. And also, let's not forget the staff that held their nerve. You know, imagine you're in a job and there's this looming cloud that's saying, well, look, you know, we're going to close down at this date. It wasn't just one date, was it? There was a few dates in the process. So, you know, those guys all held their nerves, and, you know, they're an absolute credit to the success of everything that's happened in KLV over the years. I would just like to cover off some of the process that happened on the motion. And the original motion that was put forward, you know, basically said, look, let's do what we need to do to help. However, there was an unachievable date line in there, which, you know, as Councillor Rowley quite rightly pointed out. So as a Conservative administration, we thought, let's take that bit out. Let's give officers and the team time to do something properly. And that's what we've managing to achieve here now. We're doing it right. We're making sure that everybody is understanding where we need to go with this. And also there was the bit in there about scrutiny. There was nothing in the original motion about scrutinising this. Scrutiny for members of the public who don't understand how councils work is a catch-all safety net that just checks decisions of the council, the executive, to ensure that what we're doing is best value and is right for the authority. That's an important part of this local authority. And I cannot, and you know, I'm going to get a little bit political on this because I cannot understand. We've got a councillor here today, Councillor Jim Hakewell, who is coming along saying, we want to save it, we want to do this. However, in that council meeting, Councillor Hakewell, the deputy leader for the Green Party in Kettering, voted against the motion. He voted for KLV to close down, effectively. If we hadn't got that motion over the line and done what we needed to do, the likelihood is that the KLV, Kettering Leisure Village, would have closed down. Now, he comes in here telling everybody, you know, that he's done this, he's done that. He voted against the motion. That motion that would have kept KLV open, he and some of his colleagues voted against it. And he comes in here telling us that we're the bad people here. I think he really needs to take a good look at himself. So whilst we understand that we're moving ahead with this now, and we're going to get the right result for the people of Kettering and the wider people of Northamptonshire, I'm not going to have a member of this council come in here and tell us how he thinks everything should be saved and voted against saving it. Back to you, Councillor Binley, to wrap up.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much for the additional comments, and Councillor Edwards for showing your trip down memory lane. I've already had that from Mrs Binley, I hasten to add, and the swimming pool apparently used to be amazing as well. I just wish to really, Chair, just thank members of the public. I know that this has already been mentioned, the KLV support group, but also councillors, the executive and officers that have been involved. And rightly so, the KLV staff, as has been said, who held their nerve, but also Phoenix and Compass for coming to the table and having these discussions. And I think what this really shows is what can be done when everybody actually works together and doesn't butt heads and actually works constructively towards a positive outcome for the benefits of the people of Northamptonshire. So, Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendations made out in 3.1 for the reasons set out in 3.2 of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Binley. Can I look for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Howe. So we have a mover and a seconder. Can I have a show of hands, all in favour, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, I can confirm that I've received no requests for any other urgent business, so this meeting is now closed, and I'd like to thank members of the public and councillors and our online viewing public. Every thanks for coming to this meeting. Thank you.